Hello guys, and so I want to take you on a journey and share what is the problem I found today, why I had this problem, and how we can prevent this problem in the future. So, as many of you know, in dynamic languages, it is possible to create a structure called a dictionary or a hash map. So we can create these hash maps are tremendously convenient. So, and they are convenient because, well, you can put anything in them and you can get anything from them. So that gives us some flexibility about the types. But it also means that we have to be careful because maybe I'm trying to put uppercase A there. Also, it means we have to be careful because maybe things don't exist. Now, I was working on this benchmark software, and it turns out that here, Kuldeep wrote some code, and I'm getting a report of distance of, I guess this is 4 million meters. So 4 million meters is a long distance, and here you can see that the original zip code is 63541. And then the other zip code is this one. So it's the same zip code, right? So I thought, well, if it's the same zip code, shouldn't distance be 0? And it should be 0, right? But it wasn't. So I thought, well, why is this happening? So I printed in the distance function, I'm printing the coordinates. So here we have a distance function, and here we have some coordinates, such as latitude, longitude, latitude. Now, here we're not getting latitude, longitude explicitly, we're getting them with this dot 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 syntax, which is bound to break, but whatever. And then I'm assuming this function is correct. So when you print the numbers, it turns out one of the numbers is 0. So that's strange. So I thought, well, maybe the database value is 0, right? So I printed the SQL statement, and then I later moved on to review the data. No value is 0. It's not 0, right? So I thought, well, maybe the SQL scan function maybe they forgot to add it or something. So you can see this distance function is being called because of this job object, and this job object is coming here. So I thought, well, maybe this function get zip code is the problem. So I found these two values. So I decided to change the table. Still, these values are correct. So I review the values, and the values are correct. These two values are correct. They're coming from the database, perfect. So I thought, well, maybe it's the other. I mean, we're comparing two sets of things, right? So if one of them is not 0, maybe the other one is 0, right? So I review this function, and then here in this function, which is coming, I think is coming from this list, and this list is coming from this URL list, which is coming from this function. So here, I review this function 10 times. And then I review the data, and I print the data, and it turns out data is correct. So everything is correct. So I'm just baffled by this problem for hours, right? And I had no idea what could possibly be causing this 0 number here. And then as I read the code, I noticed that one of the function signatures had a map in it. So I think one function, this function, get coordinates. It gives me coordinates and it gives me map. So I thought, well, this map, this is printing two values here. And this is when I thought I found the problem. Maybe problem is that they misspelled the map key. And because they misspelled the map key, then they have error. And sure enough, the programmer, they were supposed to spell latitude and longitude, they spell latitude. With latitude, I'm searching here, it only happens here. So unfortunately, this is the mistake. Now, compiler doesn't catch this mistake. The person reviewing the code doesn't catch this mistake. Everything looks like it works perfect, but it's very dangerous. Why? Because we're reading from a map. Now here, there's two different problems, right? When you read something from a map, you need to check if it exists or not. So here, let me offer example. Golang read item from map. When you read things from a map, you have to check if the value actually exists or not. Sorry, not this one. Let me see if I can find it. No maps. Every time we have to check if it exists or not. So here you can read, you can write, but we need to check if it exists. So this part is important because this is the part, because if this doesn't exist, this will be false, and this will be the default value for the type. The default value for floats is 0, so no compiler error. So the correct version here would probably have been, well, here we have the coordinate latitude and then some, I guess, okay, to be equal to this. And if it doesn't exist, then I guess we can say fail to obtain, fail to get item from key. And then we're gonna put the key name because we're nice. And then here, something very wrong happened, and I guess we can just return. Here I'm gonna return, I guess it depends, right? You can continue, you can return, you can log fatal, you can do many things, but for this example I think return is okay. And now I'm gonna do the same thing for the latitude and now the longitude. So I'm gonna copy paste, and then this latitude, I guess we should call it latitude, and then longitude. And then here I'm gonna use the values that I obtained, such as C latitude and then C longitude. Hopefully then this programming practice will help me find the problem. So let's test the software again. And here, sure enough, we have an error, failed to get the item latitude. And now, because I have checked every time I use the map, now I was able to find the problem and find the latitude instead of latitude. So my suggestion, the purpose of this video is for me to suggest every time you read from a map, you have to check if the value exists. Otherwise, another programmer in the other side of the world is going to waste 5 hours of their time figuring out why we have 0 there. Now, to me, of course, all this map code is total garbage. Because the point of using compiled languages is to get auto-completion. We will never get auto-completion using all this map garbage. So what does that mean? Well, we have to create types. So let's just solve this problem. I guess we can solve this problem by changing this D to a T. Is that the solution? Yes, latitude, yes. Okay, so that is the solution to the problem. But this problem will continue happening in the future because we're gonna continue to use maps. And let's see, distance is 0, perfect, that's all I wanted. Now, about solving the problem, how do we solve this problem? Well, we just get rid of this fucking bullshit map thing here. So how do we do that? Well, the first step is to create a type. So that should be very easy. Here we just go here, so we're going to make a type. Let's call it coordinate set. And this type is going to have two, I guess, latitude, which is float 64, and then longitude, which is float 64. So that was very easy. So now that we have this data type, Now we can use this data type here and just tell people, well, I'm just going to return this thing called a coordinate set. In fact, this should return error in case it fails, but whatever. And here, I guess for coordinates, we can just have this coordinate set, but latitude is 0, longitude is 0. And finally here, I don't think we need these variables anymore, because we can just use them here. We can just use them here. So I think I'm gonna get rid of these guys. And now we have the coordinates, Now here, I don't need these lines of code. And I'm hoping I don't need this one, but I'll leave it there. So that's all I want, really. Now, because I did this change, that means that this thing now has to change again. So here we have these coordinates, and I guess we can get rid of these things. And here, I can have my coordinates latitude, and then because I changed it, now let's test it, and I hope it still works. Well, it seems to have an error somewhere. Let's see, line 56. What's my mistake here? Oh, I forgot the word struct here. Sorry, guys. Okay, is this going to work? Okay, now it's telling me coordinate longitude. Has no field longitude. Aha. Now it's telling me coordinate longitude is undefined. Coordinate set has no field longitude. Doesn't? Ah, because I misspelled it. Aha! But because I misspelled it, now the compiler doesn't let it work. Okay? So let's try again. And that was not an intentional misspell. I swear to God, it was an honest mistake. I did the honest mistake, and the software doesn't compile. So now it works correctly. And here you can see that when I use this, if I had done instead of latitude, I would have said latitude. If I had done this by mistake, then the program simply it doesn't exist. And if this were Rust, I will get something telling me, well, actually, there is variable latitude doesn't exist, but there is another variable like which does exist, which is like the misspelling, right? So if we were Rust. So in summary, maps are dangerous because we can make mistakes like this. They're also very useful, and there's places for them. I'm not saying never use a map, but if you have to use a map, but you can also use the struct with all the fields, then the language will protect you from your own mistakes. And I think that's the point of using Go. The point of using Go is to have Go protect us from our mistakes. If not, we can use Python, or we should be using PHP or JavaScript or some other language. Zero protection, right? So here, the main message is not, oh, Kuldeep made a mistake, Kuldeep is evil. No, that's not the message. Maybe I made the mistake. Anybody could have made this mistake. Maybe I accidentally changed T for D. I don't know. But it doesn't matter who made the mistake, guys. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the mistake was made because we were using a map which is not offering any protection. And we're using map wrong. So my guess is that we're using map wrong in other programs and in future programs. So if you see somebody reading from a map and they're not checking if it's okay or not, definitely there will be a problem there. And if you see somebody using map where they can just use a struct, you guys should tell each other, hey man, you're using a map, why don't you use a struct? It takes about the same amount of code, it is about equally readable, but the results is as much better guarantees. and then the people reading from the map, they know exactly what fields exist, because sometimes you're reading from the map, you don't know what fields exist, and the fields may be created by some strange combination of events or multiple parts of the code, so it may be difficult to figure out what fields exist. This example, no. Most of the time, maybe. So don't use maps, guys. Thank you.